Even after everything, I couldn't let you die.
Maybe our worlds still have hope.
Imagine this. You're walking through a dark alley on an ordinary night. You see someone bleeding badly. Most people walk past, but you stop. You help. You bandage their wounds. You save their life. Then, 3 months later, you discover something impossible. The stranger you saved isn't human. He's not even from Earth. He's an alien warrior. And he doesn't just control one planet. He controls entire star systems. Billions of people answer to him. Trillions of credits flow through his hands. He's the hidden force that runs everything in the galaxy. But here's what's crazier. Nobody knows about him. Not one person. He's completely invisible to the universe. He moves through shadows and whispers. Governments don't know. Militaries don't know. Even the richest people in the galaxy don't know he exists. And the most shocking part, he owes his entire life to you. In this story, we are going to explore something that will completely change how you see power, loyalty, and destiny. We are going to ask the question nobody is asking. What happens when an ordinary person saves the life of someone who secretly controls everything? This is humanity's future. This is how one act of kindness creates an empire. This is how a stranger becomes a legend. But the truth behind this will shock you. Let me show you exactly how this happened. Her name was Sarah. She lived in a small city on the edge of the galaxy. Not the center. Not somewhere important. Just an ordinary city where ordinary people lived ordinary lives. Sarah worked as a medic. Not a famous medic. Not someone you'd read about in history books. She worked in a small clinic that served the poor and forgotten people of her community. She made very little money. She had almost no recognition. But she loved helping people. One night, everything changed. Sarah was walking home from work. It was late. The streets were empty. Dark. Cold. The kind of night where most people run from one place to another without looking around. But Sarah always looked around. That's when she saw him. A man was lying in an alley. His clothes were torn. His body was covered in blood. His breathing was slow and shallow. Most people would have called for help from far away. Most people would have used their communicator and walked away. Sarah didn't do that. She ran toward him. She knelt down beside him. She checked his pulse. She checked his breathing. She looked at his wounds carefully. They were deep. Very deep. The kind of wounds that killed people. But Sarah didn't panic. She had seen terrible injuries before. She knew what to do. She opened her medical bag. She pulled out bandages. She pulled out medicine. She pulled out tools for stopping bleeding. For 3 hours, she worked on this stranger. She didn't know his name. She didn't know where he was from. She didn't ask questions. She just worked. She bandaged his wounds carefully. She gave him medicine to stop the pains. She gave him medicine to fight infection. She stayed with him through the entire night. By morning, he was stable. By the next day, he was conscious. He opened his eyes and looked at Sarah. His eyes were unusual. They had golden flecks in them. His skin was not quite human. His features were perfect but strange. He looked at her without speaking for a long time. Then he said 4 words. "Why did you save me?" Sarah smiled. She said, "Because you needed help. Everyone deserves help when they need it." The stranger looked confused. In his world, nothing was free. Nothing was given without expecting something back. Kindness was a weapon used to manipulate others. Mercy was weakness. But Sarah had saved him without expecting anything. For the next week, the stranger stayed in Sarah's clinic. She brought him food. She changed his bandages. She gave him medicine. She talked to him about life and the universe and his dreams. She never asked him his name. She never asked him where he was from. She never asked him what had happened to him. She just helped him heal. Slowly, his wounds got better. His strength returned. His mind became clearer. And as he got better, he started to understand something profound. Sarah had saved him not because she expected reward, not because she wanted power, not because she wanted influence. She had saved him because she was kind. This concept was completely foreign to him. In the galactic empire he came from, kindness was impossible. Everyone was fighting for power. Everyone was trying to get ahead. Everyone was trying to dominate everyone else. But here was this ordinary human woman. She had almost nothing. She had no power. She had no wealth. She had no influence. But she had something the entire galaxy was missing. She had a good heart. After 1 week, the stranger was strong enough to leave. He stood up from the bed. He looked at Sarah one more time. Then he said something that would change everything. "I will never forget what you did. I will remember this for the rest of my life. And I promise you, Sarah, one day I will repay this debt." Then he left. Sarah thought she would never see him again. She went back to her small job at her small clinic. She helped her patients. She went home to her small apartment. She lived her simple life. But 3 months later, everything started changing. Strange people started appearing in her city. They wore unusual clothes. They carried advanced technology. They had serious expressions. They asked questions about her. They asked about the night she found the stranger in the alley. Sarah knew then that something incredible had happened. She knew the stranger was not what he seemed. The first sign came when Sarah received a message on her communicator. It was encrypted. It was from someone she didn't know. The message said only one thing: watch the news broadcast from the Central Galactic Council. Sarah turned on her news feed. What she saw made her heart stop. The Galactic Council was having an emergency meeting. All the leaders of the major powers were there. The presidents, the generals, the rich families that controlled everything. They looked terrified. They were arguing with each other. The news reporter said something that changed everything. Breaking news from the Galactic Center. Unknown force has taken control of all communications across the Andromeda sector. All military forces have been neutralized. All financial systems have been seized. Nobody knows who is responsible. The council is in chaos. Sarah watched as the news showed scenes from across the galaxy. Military ships were not moving. Banks were closed. Governments were shut down. Entire cities were going dark. One force had done all of this. One person. And that person had done it without firing a single shot. Then, the broadcast changed. A figure appeared on every screen across the galaxy. It was a hologram. It was massive. It was the stranger Sarah had saved. But he looked different now. He wore clothes that seemed to be made of pure light. His presence filled the entire screen. When he spoke, his voice echoed across the galaxy. "I am taking control of all galactic systems effective immediately. This is not a war. This is not a conquest. This is a correction. For thousands of years, your leaders have fought each other. They have stolen from the poor. They have lied to their people. They have created systems built on lies and violence." Sarah listened, amazed. "But I am not doing this to punish you. I am doing this to show you that another way exists. I am establishing a new government, one that serves all beings, one that is built on kindness and cooperation." The screen changed again. His face became clearer. He looked directly into the camera. He looked directly at Sarah, even though she was millions of miles away. I was saved by an act of mercy. I was given second chance by someone who asked for nothing. I was shown that goodness still exists in this universe. And because of that, I am choosing mercy for all of you. Within hours, everything was reorganized. The military forces that had once threatened everything were now working for him. The banks that had once controlled the wealth were now distributing it fairly. The governments that had once fought each other were now cooperating. The galactic empire that had been chaotic and violent was now peaceful and organized. All of this happened in less than 24 hours. Historians would later study this moment. They called it the Great Transition. They called it the day the galaxy changed forever. They said it was impossible. They said one person could not control so much power without being evil. But the stranger was different. He had known evil. He had lived in evil systems. He had been trained to use power ruthlessly. But he had been saved by kindness. And that changed everything. 3 days after his broadcast, Sarah received a visitor. It was the stranger. He came to her clinic alone. No guards, no weapons, no protection. He simply walked in and asked to speak with her. Sarah felt nervous. She felt confused. She felt honored and terrified at the same time. The stranger sat down in a small chair in her clinic. He smiled at her. His golden eyes seemed to glow. "I promised you I would repay my debt," he said. "But I realize now that I cannot truly repay what you gave me. You gave me my life. But more than that, you gave me hope. You showed me that goodness exists." Sarah said nothing. She just listened. "I have discovered something amazing," he continued. "Your act of kindness triggered something in me. It awakened something that had been dormant my entire life. And when it awakened, I realized I had abilities I did not know I possessed." He explained to Sarah that he was not just a warrior. He was something more. He was what his people called a resonance. Someone who could connect with computer systems directly. Someone who could organize chaos. Someone who could inspire loyalty and cooperation simply by existing. "But I could not activate these abilities," he said, "until someone showed me what it meant to be kind without expecting reward." Sarah began to understand the truth. She had not just saved a stranger. She had awakened a force that would change the entire galaxy forever. The stranger looked at her with deep respect. "You saved me when you could have walked past. You gave me medicine when you could have called someone else. You treated me with kindness when you had no reason to. And because of that, billions of beings across the galaxy will now live in peace." He stood up. "Thank you, Sarah. You are the reason the galaxy will survive." Then he left. But everything was different now. After the stranger left Sarah's clinic, she could not stop thinking about what he had told her. She had awakened something powerful. She had created change across the entire galaxy. But she did not feel powerful. She felt ordinary. She felt small. She felt confused about her role in all of this. The next morning, Sarah received a message. It was an official invitation from the new galactic government. The stranger wanted to see her again. Not in her small clinic. Not in her small city. He wanted to see her at the galactic center. At the heart of power itself. Sarah had never left her home planet. She had never traveled in a spaceship. She had never seen the galactic center. She was terrified. But she went anyway. When she arrived at the galactic center, she could not believe what she saw. Massive cities floated in space. Some were the size of planets. Some were shaped like spirals. Some were shaped like perfect spheres. Technology beyond imagination kept them all floating and functioning. Beings from thousands of different species walked together in peace. And at the center of it all was a massive structure. It looked like a palace. It looked like a government building. It looked like something that should not exist in reality. The stranger was waiting for her on the top level. He stood in front of a massive window that looked out at the entire galaxy. He did not turn around when she entered. He simply spoke. "Do you know what I see when I look out at this?" he asked. Sarah shook her head, even though he could not see her. "I see billions of lives," he continued. "I see suffering that I can fix. I see problems that I can solve. I see a galaxy that is broken and needs healing. And I can fix it. My abilities allow me to organize, to connect, to inspire. I can make this galaxy function as it was always meant to function." He finally turned around and looked at Sarah. "But I will not do it alone. I cannot do it alone. Because power without wisdom is destruction. I need people like you. I need people who understand kindness. I need people who know that the greatest power is not control. It is cooperation." He walked toward her. "I am going to show you something that very few beings have ever seen. I am going to show you the true scope of my power. And I want you to understand that all of this exists because you saved me." He took her hand. Then, suddenly, Sarah's mind expanded. She could see across the galaxy. She could feel the systems connecting. She could sense billions of beings living their lives. She could feel the network of technology that held everything together. She could see the plans the stranger had. Plans to eliminate suffering. Plans to bring education to every being. Plans to share resources fairly. Plans to create something beautiful. And she understood. This stranger had not conquered the galaxy. He had organized it. He had shown everyone that cooperation was more powerful than war. He had proven that kindness could create systems that worked for everyone. He had taken a galaxy built on violence and fear and transformed it into something beautiful. But this transformation was not complete. The stranger released Sarah's hand and she gasped, returning to normal consciousness. "There is much resistance," he told her. "There are beings who profit from the old system. There are leaders who lost their power. There are people who do not believe that kindness can create order. They think I am weak. They think my mercy is a mistake." He looked out at the galaxy again. "But I am not weak. I am simply choosing a different kind of strength. Strength built on trust instead of fear. Strength built on cooperation instead of domination." Sarah finally spoke. "Why are you telling me this? Why did you bring me here?" The stranger smiled. "Because I need you to understand your role in all of this. You are not just the person who saved my life. You are the symbol of everything this new galaxy will be built on. You are the proof that kindness works. You are the example that shows everyone what is possible when we choose to help each other instead of fighting each other." He extended his hand to her again. "I am asking you to help me, not as a commander, not as someone who must obey, but as a partner, as someone who understands what this galaxy could become." Sarah looked at his hand. She looked out at the galaxy. She thought about all the people she had helped in her small clinic. She thought about all the people she could help if she had the resources. She thought about the future they could build together. Then she took his hand. And everything changed again. Sarah's decision to stand with the stranger rippled across the galaxy like waves in water. Word spread quickly. The ordinary medic who had saved the galactic leader was now his trusted advisor. The woman with nothing was now helping to organize everything. The healer from a forgotten city was now reshaping civilizations. But not everyone was happy about this. There were beings who wanted the old system back. There were leaders who had lost power and wanted revenge. There were military commanders who believed in strength through domination, not cooperation. They began to organize against the stranger. They called themselves the Resistance. They claimed that the stranger was a dictator hiding behind words about kindness. They said his system would fail. They said beings could not cooperate. They said the galaxy needed leaders who would use force to maintain order. And they began to strike. Ships disappeared. Cities lost communication. Entire sectors went dark. The resistance was using the same techniques the stranger had used to take control. They were trying to prove that his system of cooperation was weak. The stranger could have destroyed them. He had the power to eliminate every resistance member with a single thought. He could have crushed them instantly. He could have shown them the price of challenging him. But he did not. Instead, he called a meeting with all the resistance leaders. He did this without force. He did this without threat. He invited them to come speak with him. Some came out of curiosity. Some came because they thought it was a trick. Some came because they wanted to assassinate him and felt this was their chance. They all gathered in a massive chamber at the Galactic Center. The stranger stood in front of them. "I know you believe I am a tyrant," he said. "I know you think my system will fail. I know you think beings cannot live together in peace." He paused. "But I want to ask you something. Why do you believe this? Is it because you have tried peace and it failed? Or is it because you have never tried peace at all?" A general stood up. He was scarred and angry. He had lost everything in the transition. "Your system is weak," the general said. "I have conquered 17 planets. I have defeated every enemy I faced. Your kindness is not power. It is surrender." The stranger nodded. "You are right," he said. "Your kind of strength is powerful. Your skill in battle is impressive. And I could destroy you right now. But that would only prove you wrong. That would show that my system is based on the same violence as yours." The general looked confused. Instead, the stranger continued, "I am offering you a choice. Join my system. Not as a slave. Not as someone who has lost power. But as someone who can use your skills for something greater than conquest." The general looked at him with suspicion. "I want you to lead the Peace Corps," the stranger said. "Your job will be to go to planets that are suffering from violence and help them rebuild. Your job will be to teach beings how to defend themselves without becoming conquerors. Your job will be to show that strength can be used to create instead of destroy." The general was silent. "You will still lead. You will still command. But instead of leading soldiers to conquest, you will lead healers to reconstruction. Instead of commanding invasions, you will command rescue missions. Your skills will still be used. They will just be used differently." The general slowly sat down. One by one, other resistance leaders made the same choice. Some refused. Some tried to leave and fight again. Some tried to attack the stranger and failed because he simply would not fight back. Eventually, most of them understood the truth. The stranger was not weak. He was actually stronger than anyone had ever been. Because his strength was not based on fear. It was not based on the threat of death. It was based on something deeper. It was based on the simple truth that beings wanted to cooperate. They wanted peace. They wanted to be part of something greater than themselves. They just needed someone to show them it was possible. Over the next few months, the resistance dissolved. Not through violence, but through understanding. Not through conquest, but through transformation. Beings who had dedicated their lives to fighting learned to build instead. Leaders who had competed with each other learned to cooperate. And Sarah watched it all happen. She saw the stranger's vision become reality. She saw the galaxy transform from a place of chaos and violence into a place of cooperation and peace. She saw technologies develop to help every being instead of just the rich. She saw education systems established on every planet. She saw resources distributed fairly. But she also saw something she did not expect. She saw the stranger changing, The more he helped others, the more he worked with his people, the more he used his power for healing instead of control, the more human he became. His perfect alien features became warm. His golden eyes became kind. His powerful presence became gentle. He was becoming something new. He was becoming a being who had learned that the greatest power is not strength. The greatest power is love. Years passed in the new galactic system. Sarah and the stranger had worked together through countless challenges. They had faced problems that seemed impossible. They had encountered beings who still believed in the old ways. They had watched as some systems failed and had to be rebuilt. But through it all, they had never given up. The galaxy had changed more than anyone thought possible. Entire generations of young beings had never known war. They had never experienced hunger. They had never felt fear of their leaders. They knew only cooperation and peace. And all of this had started with one act of kindness. One night, Sarah and the stranger stood together in the observation chamber of the Galactic Center. They looked out at the stars, spreading infinitely in all directions. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened," Sarah asked, "if you had walked past me that night? If you had not been injured? If you had never needed my help?" The stranger was quiet for a long time. "Every day," he finally said. "If you had not saved me, the galaxy would have continued on its path toward destruction. My people were building systems of control that would have enslaved billions. We were creating technology that would have turned beings into machines. We were heading toward something terrible." He looked at Sarah. "But you saved me. And when you saved me, you showed me a different way. You showed me that ordinary beings could do extraordinary things. You showed me that kindness was not weakness. You showed me that cooperation was stronger than dominance." Sarah smiled. "I did not do anything special. I just helped someone who needed help." "Exactly," the stranger said. "That is the secret the entire galaxy has discovered. Nothing special. Just beings helping each other. Just kindness. Just cooperation. That is all it takes to change everything." They stood together in silence for a while longer. Then the stranger spoke again. "I have been thinking about something. I promised you I would repay my debt. But I realize now that I cannot repay it. Not truly. Because what you gave me cannot be measured in credits or power or resources." He reached out and took Sarah's hand. "You gave me hope. You gave me proof that goodness exists. You gave me the reason to believe that the universe could be better. That debt is too great to ever repay." Sarah squeezed his hand. "Then do not try to repay it," she said. "Instead, help me create a galaxy where every being has the chance to give and receive kindness the way we did. That is repayment enough." The stranger nodded. "That is what we have been doing," he said. "And it is working. But the work is not finished. It will never be finished. Because creating just galaxy is not a destination. It is a journey. It is something we must commit to every single day." Sarah looked out at the stars again. "Do you think it will last?" she asked. "Do you think future generations will keep choosing kindness over conquest? Do you think they will remember why we created this system?" The stranger considered the question carefully. "I think," he said slowly, "that as long as there are beings like you, it will last. As long as there are people willing to help a stranger without expecting reward. As long as there are individuals who choose kindness even when it would be easier to walk past. Then yes, it will last." He looked at her with those golden eyes that had once filled her with fear, but now filled her with hope. "You are the proof that this system works, Sarah. Not because you have power, but because you chose to help someone with nothing to give in return. And that simple choice changed everything." Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes. "I do not feel like I changed everything. I feel like I just did what anyone should do." "And that," the stranger said, is exactly why you are so powerful. Because you do not see yourself as powerful. You see yourself as ordinary. And yet, you changed the fate of billions. You saved a life and transformed a galaxy. They stood together as the stars continued to shine infinitely in all directions. The stranger who had been dying in an alley was now the leader of the most peaceful civilization in galactic history. The medic who had worked in a small clinic was now an advisor to the entire galaxy. Two beings from completely different worlds had come together and created something that had never existed before. Real cooperation, true peace, genuine kindness as the foundation of society. And it had all started with one person stopping to help a stranger in need. The stranger turned to Sarah one last time. "I will never forget what you did for me. And I promise you, neither will the galaxy. Your name will be remembered as the person who saved not just one life, but an entire civilization. As the person who proved that kindness is the most powerful force in the universe." Sarah smiled. "Then let us use that power wisely. Let us make sure that this peace lasts forever. Let us build a galaxy where every being remembers that helping each other is not weakness. It is the greatest strength of all." And in that moment, they both understood the deepest truth. The stranger had saved the galaxy, but the galaxy had been saved by an ordinary person's simple act of kindness. And that made her the real hero of this story. Here is what historians discovered later. The stranger's abilities did not come from technology. They did not come from weapons or training. They came from being shown that goodness exists. One act of kindness literally activated dormant powers inside him. Scientists could not explain it. Philosophers debated it. But the result was undeniable. Kindness had changed everything. This is not just a story about power and galaxies. This is a story about you. About what happens when you choose to help someone instead of walking past. About how your simple act of mercy could create ripples that change everything. You will never know the full impact of your kindness. You will never see all the lives affected by your choice to help. But that does not mean it does not matter. It matters infinitely. If this opened your eyes to the power of your own kindness, share this story with someone you love. Because they need to know that their choices matter. That one decision to be kind could be the beginning of something that changes the world. Let me remind you of the biggest lessons from this story. First, ordinary kindness creates extraordinary change. Sarah was not a hero. She was just a medic doing her job. Yet her simple choice to help stranger transformed an entire galaxy. Second, power based on fear never lasts. The old galactic system was built on domination and control. It collapsed instantly when something stronger emerged. The stranger's power came from trust and cooperation, and it created peace that actually stayed. Third, you have more power than you realize. Right now, in your life, there are strangers around you who need help. Some need medical attention. Some need food. Some need kindness. Your choice to help them could matter more than you ever know. Now, I want to invite you to do 3 things. First, subscribe to this channel. We create stories that explore the power of human connection, kindness, and how one person can change everything. Each video shows you real examples of how ordinary beings do extraordinary things. Second, watch our next video. We are going to explore the second part of this story. We are going to discover what happened to the next generation. We are going to see if they remembered why their civilization was built on kindness. Third, join our community. Comment below and tell us about a time when someone's kindness changed your life. Tell us about a time when you helped a stranger and it mattered. Share your story because it inspires others to choose kindness too. Because that is how we change the world. One kind choice. One helping hand. One person at a time. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video.